Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, unsure of what really happened, or even questioning whether your own emotions were valid? Have you ever found yourself apologizing for something you're not even sure you did wrong, or feeling guilty for simply standing up for yourself? If you've felt this before, you are not alone. Manipulation in relationships doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always come wrapped in yelling, chaos, or obvious control. Sometimes the most powerful manipulation is quiet, gentle, almost invisible, and the people who use it often do it so subtly that you don't notice what's happening until much later, when your emotional balance is already shaken. Today, we're going to break down 7 rare manipulation tactics that are not commonly talked about, yet they are some of the most psychologically powerful forms of influence used in relationships, friendships, and even family dynamics. And I want you to stay with me till the end, because trick number 5, and especially number 7, are some of the most damaging and the most difficult to identify early. But once you understand them, you'll begin to see the invisible patterns behind many confusing interactions in your life. Let's begin. In this video, we're going to walk through the 7 manipulation tricks one by one. You're going to learn 1. The subtle tactic of soft gaslighting. 2. The emotional trap of empathy debt. 3. The perception-altering method called social fogging. 4. The slow and painful pattern of emotional withdrawal. 5. The addictive loop of conditional warmth. 6. The controlling disguise of the compassion mask. 7. And finally, the deepest psychological distortion, the reality rewrite. For each one, I'll explain what the tactic looks like, how it works, and the psychological effect it has on the person experiencing it. Let's begin with the first. The soft gaslight. Imagine you express a concern, a fear, or even just a feeling, and the person across from you smiles calmly and says, "Are you sure that's what happened? I think you might be reading into it too much. Maybe it wasn't that serious. You're usually more chill than this." Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just a quiet suggestion that maybe your perception isn't quite right. This is what I call soft gaslighting, a more subtle, more socially acceptable cousin of traditional gaslighting. Traditional gaslighting is obvious. It's intense. It often involves denial, contradiction, or rewriting events. Soft gaslighting, however, hides behind politeness. It hides behind the tone of, "I'm helping you see clearly." It's not an attack, it's a gentle nudge. And that is exactly why it's effective. Soft gaslighting works because it is plausible. The person isn't saying you're crazy. They're not saying you imagine something. They're simply suggesting a more reasonable interpretation. And very slowly, without realizing it, you begin to question your feelings. Psychologically, the effect is powerful. Your confidence lowers slowly and quietly. You begin to rely on the other person's interpretation more than your own. You develop conditioned self-doubt, and eventually you start pre-editing your emotions before expressing them. The danger is not in the intensity, it's in the accumulation. People who use this tactic often do it with a calm, rational tone. They may consider themselves logical, reasonable, or even emotionally intelligent. They position themselves as the person who understands the world properly, and by comparison, your emotional reactions seem exaggerated. But soft gaslighting becomes extremely dangerous when it's paired with trick number 3, which we'll get to soon. Because when someone manipulates your internal reality and your social reality at the same time, your emotional grounding becomes unstable. Let's move to the second tactic, the empathy debt. Have you ever confronted someone about a hurtful action? Maybe they ignored you, dismissed you, or acted unfairly. And instead of addressing the issue, they suddenly become extremely vulnerable. They begin to cry. They talk about their stress, their trauma, their struggles. They describe how hard things have been for them. They might even say something like, "I'm trying my best. I didn't mean to hurt you." And suddenly the conversation shifts. It's no longer about your pain. It becomes about their suffering. You started the interaction hoping for accountability. You end the interaction comforting the person who hurt you. That emotional reversal is not accidental. This is the manipulation technique called empathy debt. Here's how it works. A person who cannot tolerate responsibility or accountability uses vulnerability as a shield. Not real, grounded vulnerability, but selective vulnerability. They pull it out only when needed, only when they need forgiveness, only when they need the emotional pressure off them. And because most people are empathetic, especially in relationships, you soften, you care, you empathize. You begin to feel guilty for even bringing it up. And just like that, a debt is created. You feel like you owe them understanding, even when they're the one who hurt you. Psychologically, it triggers your caregiver instincts. It creates cycles of guilt. It makes you suppress your boundaries to not hurt them further. You get emotionally conditioned to avoid conflict. This is often tied deeply to attachment styles. People with avoidant attachment sometimes use empathy debt unconsciously to prevent emotional confrontation. People with anxious attachment fall into the trap because they fear losing the relationship. But this next trick is even more covert because, unlike empathy debt, it doesn't happen in your presence. It happens behind your back. The social fogging technique. This tactic is extremely subtle and extremely damaging. It looks like this. Someone begins making small, carefully crafted comments to your friends, your family, or people in your circle. Not insults, not accusations, just concerns. "I don't know, lately she seems overwhelmed. He's been acting really sensitive. I'm a bit worried about him. She might have misunderstood what I meant. I think they're going through something emotionally." These comments don't make you look bad. They make you look unstable. This is called social fogging, shaping how others perceive you in gentle, almost invisible ways. It works because it's believable. It sounds caring. It sounds like concern. But the psychological effect is serious. People start treating you differently. They second-guess your reactions. They give more weight to the manipulator's version of events than yours. You begin to feel socially misunderstood or isolated. And the manipulator now looks like the reasonable one, the calm one, while you look inconsistent. This tactic is often combined with soft gaslighting, because when someone undermines your internal reality and paints a fog around you socially, they create a pressure chamber. You start questioning not only yourself, but whether anyone will even believe you if you speak up. Now, let's move to one of the most painful manipulative patterns. The slow withdrawal. Picture this. In the beginning, the person is warm, attentive, responsive. You feel emotionally connected, even safe. Then slowly, very slowly, the warmth fades. They stop saying good morning. They respond later and later. Their tone becomes neutral, sometimes cold. Conversations feel one-sided. Affection becomes rare. Their presence becomes distant. Not all at once, but gradually. So gradually that you start to wonder if you are the one imagining the shift. This is the trick called slow emotional withdrawal. And psychologically, It is one of the most destabilizing experiences in relationships. Here's why. Intermittent reinforcement, a well-documented psychological process, shows that when affection or attention is given inconsistently, the recipient becomes more attached, not less. Meaning, the less they give you, the more you chase. When someone slowly withdraws emotionally, your brain enters a cycle of seeking the reward again. You keep trying to fix things. You try harder. You become more accommodating. You lower your expectations. You silence your needs. You begin to think, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe they're just stressed. Maybe I should be more patient. But emotional starvation doesn't make you better, it makes you weaker. Psychological effects include dopamine-seeking loops, anxiety bonding, loss of self-worth, hyperfocus on the other person's mood. And here's the twist. Slow withdrawal becomes even more dangerous when paired with the next tactic, because the withdrawal doesn't last forever. The conditional warmth switch. This is one of the most addictive forms of manipulation. Someone pulls away emotionally, physically, or energetically, leaving you feeling insecure, confused, or rejected. Then suddenly, they become warm again, affectionate again, present again, loving again. Not because the problem is solved, not because there's clarity, but because they need something. They want forgiveness. They want compliance. They want control. They want something from you, emotionally or practically. So the warmth returns, not as a real connection, but as a reward. This is the conditional warmth switch, and it's one of the strongest behavioral conditioning tools. You internalize. If I behave well, I get love. If I don't upset them, I get affection. If I don't bring up issues, things stay peaceful. Just like that, your emotional system gets trained. Intermittent reinforcement is the same mechanism used in addiction cycles, casinos, social media, even unhealthy relationships. Your brain becomes hooked on the high of the affection returning, and when the warmth disappears again, as it inevitably will, you chase it. You try to win it back. You try to recreate the conditions that made the person nice again. And this dynamic becomes extremely dangerous when combined with trick number 7, the reality rewrite, because then the relationship feels like a series of tests you're always failing. But before that, we need to talk about trick number 6, the compassion mask. This is one of the most confusing manipulation tactics because it comes wrapped in kindness. It looks like concern. It sounds like care, but beneath it lies control. It shows up as, I just don't think those friends are good for you. I'm only saying this because I love you. I don't want anyone to hurt you. I'm protecting you from bad influences. You should run decisions by me first. I just want what's best for you. The problem isn't the words, the problem is the intention behind them. If someone uses care as the justification for limiting your freedom, your social life, your independence, your choices, or your voice, that is not care. That is control dressed up in compassion. Real care supports your autonomy. Manipulative care shrinks it. Psychologically, the compassion mask creates obedience disguised as love, self-doubt about your own judgment, dependency on the other person's approval, a belief that their version of love is safer than my own choices. You start to associate approval with safety. You start to believe their guidance is the wise choice. And slowly, your sense of self becomes small. But the most dangerous manipulation technique, the one that can deeply shake your entire emotional world, is the final one. Let's move to it. The reality rewrite. This is the rarest and most psychologically damaging manipulation tactic. It happens when someone takes an event, a disagreement, or even an entire chapter of your relationship and rewrites it. But they don't rewrite it randomly. They rewrite it so that they become the victim and you become the villain. This is not simple blame shifting. This is a full narrative reconstruction. An argument becomes you attacking them. Their hurtful actions become misunderstandings. Your emotional responses become overreactions. Their behavior becomes justified. Yours becomes problematic. And the scariest part, they often tell the rewritten version to others with full confidence. Sometimes they even convince themselves it's true. This is driven by self-serving bias, inability to tolerate shame, emotional immaturity, a need to protect their ego at all costs, a desire to maintain control of the narrative. Psychological effects on you include chronic guilt, learned helplessness, emotional paralysis, loss of self-trust, feeling like the bad one even when you were harmed. And when this tactic is combined with soft gaslighting, social fogging, conditional warmth, slow withdrawal, it becomes a psychological cage. Your experiences get rewritten. Your emotions get minimized. Your relationships get shaped by someone else's version of your character. Your memories become battlegrounds. But here's the truth. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. Your emotions are valid. Your perspective matters. And your reality deserves to be honored. Let's summarize the 7 manipulation tricks. 1. Soft gaslighting is the subtle invalidation that erodes your trust in your emotions. 2. Empathy debt is the selective vulnerability that shifts accountability onto you. 3. Social fogging is the shaping of how others see you behind your back. 4. Slow withdrawal is the gradual emotional starving that increases attachment. 5. Conditional warmth switch is the affection used as a reward for compliance. 6. Compassion mask is the concern used as a tool for control. 7. Reality rewrite is turning you into the villain in their story. All 7 patterns revolve around control, self-doubt, intermittent reward, distortion of your emotional reality. Awareness is your first defense. And once you see these patterns clearly, they lose their power over you. If this video helped you understand emotional manipulation more clearly, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Which of these 7 tricks have you encountered in your life? Your experience may help someone else recognize what they've been going through. And if you want more deep psychological insights about relationships, emotional intelligence, and healing from manipulative dynamics, make sure to please subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue creating more masterpieces. There's so much more coming. Take care of your mind, your peace, and your emotional truth. You deserve to feel seen, heard, and understood. Stay soul iconic.